Pavel versus BoarControl is our first match that's coming up here today. Hearthstone Grandmasters for Europe. And so it is time to talk about some deck lists, Sottle. We got the bans and we got the picks.
We sure do. And so surprising. Double priest protection.
So surprising.
Although having said that, yesterday we did actually have quite a departure from this in a number of series where people were trying different things. They were having lineups where potentially they were happy with protecting something else. We saw Casey having that anti-warrior deck where it didn't quite work out for him because of the Mechathune, which if you didn't watch that game, go back and watch me eat humble pie. I'm sure you'll all enjoy it. But we are back to the norm this time. We're seeing double priest protection, double warrior ban, which is fairly standard as far as things go.
We have something that's not standard on deck for that, though, because as we've been seeing players protect priest on both sides and then ban warrior on both sides, we've been seeing players queue up priest on both sides. We have a departure from that. BoarControl is going with priest in this game, as I would very much expect. Pavel's going with druid. We talked about this yesterday.
Question mark?
Think it's a bad idea.
Yeah. It does just seem like you're potentially conceding initiative. And again, like we talk to players about this, and players quite rightly give the response that, you know, queue order and matchups are a bit like he said, she said, like I know that you know that I know kind of thing.
Sure.
But what's the bad matchup when you queue priest up first?
Warrior. Supposedly.
Warrior's bad.
Paladin?
Right, yeah, like...
Priest?
Yeah, exactly. Right, exactly. Right, like, if you're having to use that voice to explain how you get punished by queuing priest first, I'm pretty sure you queue priest first.
To be fair, it's me that's using that voice.
Yep.
Like, and I don't say me as in, like, haha, joking, like I'm an idiot. I'm saying it in, like, I don't play the game professionally.
Yep.
And it's been a number of years since that's been the case.
Yep.
These players do play the game professionally.
Yep.
What have they figured out that I have not? And so that would tell me a couple things here. Number one, it would tell me that Pavel can expect BoarControl to perhaps queue at Paladin, because I think if Paladin's bad versus Priest, it's probably a deck you might not want to bring to the table then. So I think it's okay versus Priest. Yep. So let's just say Pavel's mindset is, you know what, BoarControl is going to queue at Paladin some percent of the time. Let's say that time is 25%. That does mean you need to queue up Druid probably about 25% of the time then. This could just be one of those banouts. You know, if you're looking to neither have an edge over your opponent or to negate the edge that they're trying to counteract, it's a balancing act. And that's going to mean random outcomes sometimes. Game theory perspective. I will say that most of the pro Hearthstone players I've talked to about game theory exercise a lot of those practices and are somewhat unaware that they do that.
Yeah, I mean, that is kind of an essence
smart
of game theory, right? In that a lot of the time it's like describing kind of instinctual things that make sense anyway. And it's only when you get super deep into it that you're like finding weird edges that are counterintuitive.
Psycho Pump is exactly the reason you would wrath the 2-3?
Over the 4-3, yep.
That's the only reason, right?
It's the only reason, and it's also, you know, not necessarily just a straight upside good idea. Like playing around Psycho Pump can sometimes get you in some real trouble because, you know, Cleric, Heal, Circle of Healing, Divine Spirit, all of these things can punish you in the opposite way.
Yeah, kind of like Pavel's idea here, though. It was a pretty light opening from BoarControl. He led with a 2-3.
Yep.
Goes into 4-3. So, you know, the rest of the hand has been held on to at this point. And what does that mean? Probably means there's no Northshire Cleric. You saw Ancient Blade Master with no Circle of Healing. Might mean there's no Circle of Healing.
If it was a play based on a read, then Pavel's read was correct. Psycho Pomp ended up being top decked, so he wasn't rewarded in terms of thinking that card was in hand, but certainly the lack of Cleric and Healing and Circle of Healing has paid off if that was his read.
Perhaps it was just precognition.
Perhaps it was.
You didn't think of that one, did you, Sottle?
Why am I being attacked? What's going on?
Well, it always sounds like I'm attacking.
That's true.
It's like the Hulk thing. It's like my secret.
I'm always attacking.
It always sounds like I'm angry. How early do you like interfiring the matchup?
Depends on the health total of the minion I'm doing it on. I think very early. Well, okay, it depends on what turn it is. There's like a break point where around turn 5, exactly here, you have to think, yikes, this is a pretty ugly Starfall if I get Starfalled. But like, interfiring a 2-6 into a 6-6 in turn 2 or turn 3, like, yeah, sign me up. That thing's going to do 12, 18 damage over the course of the game.
You're thinking about how it lines up versus Oasis Surger.
Yes. Well, Oasis Surger and Starfall specifically, yeah. So right now, he's making a 7-7, which is not the number you want to be making a lot of the time.
Hey, I got you, friend.
What if I told you that 7-7 had a 4-5 next to it?
Well, then I'm more interested.
In the light's name.
That's where I'm a bit curious about the Light Warden here.
Right.
This says, you know what, Starfall's going to hurt, but I have a minion in play.
Yep.
Oasis Surger's the most likely one. That's the one that they want to play. It's the one they'll keep. So be strong against that one. Even in the face of Starfall, you keep 2 1-health minions in play.
Yep, Boar knows. I've talked about this dynamic at length. You just can't play around all of the options a lot of the time against Druid.
It's like that. It's like that triangle diagram that says pick 2, and it always says 3 good options.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, I want all of these.
And yeah, Boar continued to even have outs in this eventuality where if he did pick up second Nephicet, if he picked up Nausea Cleric, if he picked up Circle of Healing with that Inner Fire in hand,
Yeah.
he's kind of just in business again anyway.
And I think that's the idea behind playing the Light Warden is you want to punish your opponent when they don't have, or when they use Oasis Surger.
Yeah, if it's an Oasis Surger hand, BoarControl's board just murders Pavel at that point if it's an Oasis Surger hand.
And in the case that it's Starfall, the difference between this Injured Blade Master being at 3 and being at 5, I feel like is very similar, because then the punishes to it are going to be Oasis Surger, and then it's going to be, you know, potentially a swipe as a follow-up plan here. And so for BoarControl, I think that just means push.
Yep.
Chip away and hope that they can't recover. Pavel had both.
Bad news.
Normally you look at a situation like this, you see an opponent at 5, and you're like, I'm close. But that's just not how Priest works.
Not with Priest.
Is someone injured?
And you can try and ride this out as much as you want, but Pavel's going to 17 in the near future.
Circle of Healing. Whoa!
All right. He needs a big board this turn, though, if he's going to have any chance of competing with this over the long term.
That's the opposite.
That's not it.
What was a big board here, though, I guess? Wild Pyro, another Circle of Healing?
Yeah, you take that. Psychopomp for the Blade Master.
I feel like Coin is a big blessing in Pavel's matchup here. The slow start from Boar. Yep, things lined up really well. Bad matchups are not unwinnable matchups.
This hidden Oasis is going to make a mess of Boar's chance of winning this game.
I think just cards in general are.
Also, yes.
Yeah, Boar knows it too. He's trying to figure out a way to make some sense of this. Trying to figure out which draw is pristine, and then what play is best with that draw.
What you need right now is a Stormwind champion in your deck.
Ooh.
I got you, friend.
Ooh.
Which Boar does not have, by the way.
No,
but the
he
reason
does
I
not.
mention that is that Viper does, and has been bringing it for 2 weeks now.
I mean, heck, a Leroy could have done it this turn. I mean,
Yeah, sure.
important to note that Pavel is on Malagos Druid. I do feel like Malagos Druid actually has slightly better game versus this deck, as you have, like, just removal cards.
Sure.
You know, you have a copy of Pounce sometimes. Pavel does not have that in his variation. And it's kind of weird as it sounds to say. Honestly, Moonfire can do a lot of work in spots where
Yes, it can.
you don't expect it to.
For example, one of the common situations I talked about is just making a 6-6 early, or just even having a 2-6 in hand, which means if you play Oasis Surger into that and you have Moonfire, suddenly you're picking up 2 big trades on the board instead of just having to jam both your Oasis Surger into that 2-6.
Boar's had enough. He's going to take a quick break.
Yep.
Pavel up 1-0. That is the nature of Priest matchups. They go quick.
If you fall behind on board like that, if you just try and play around the Oasis Surger hand and you get hit with the Starfall hand, and then the Oasis Surger is just there anyway to punish the follow-up, rough spot to be in.
I mean, for Pavel, it's just all the checkboxes got marked. It was I have Coin, so I fast quest progress. Have Starfall to check big minion. Have Anubisath Defender to defend myself afterwards. Have Oasis Surger to punish your follow-up. Like, that's the dream Druid hand. That's the reason that Druid, I think, is a competitive deck, is that in the face of adversity like that, if you do not get a lightning fast start, it has massive ways to punish you in a lot of ways.
It is, and from Boar's side, like, this is the reason why that matchup is considered so good for Priest, is like, Druid can have that perfect hand, but if you just, you know, play an injured Tolvir on turn 2 and then make it huge on turn 3, The druid with the perfect hand is still just as dead as the druid with the bad hand in that spot. So like Priest still has immense game against the best possible druid hands. It's just Boar had that kind of slow start running up against a really, really strong hand from Pavel.
Yeah, my only question mark would have been the Light Warden next to the 7/7. But I have to really go on the other side and give credit, I think, where credit's due. Where for Pavel, he makes the read of saying Boar hasn't blasted off to an early start. Those left cards likely to contain something slower, like Psychopomp.
Yeah.
Wrath's the weaker minion of the two, and Psychopomp gets drawn for BoarControl as well. Like, you're not only accounting for the hand, you're accounting for the draw potential there. If Psychopomp just gets drawn, Pavel's blown out of that game.
Yep. It's a big question mark because when I've seen players making that play a lot of the time, trying to get too cute and playing around Psychopomp, they do just get blown out by clerics and circles a lot of the time straight afterwards. So I think it is a borderline play. But as I said, if that was based on a read, from Pavel, the read was good.
Well, I think it was based on a read. I'm calling it right now. Quick break. When we come back, game
Worked
number 2
out for you last time.
of Pavel versus BoarControl, and indeed it did. I love being right. Rarely happens, though. Stay tuned.
Legends say powerful treasures are hidden everywhere here in Aldum.
If we hope to defeat Rafam, we'll need as many as we can get. He's already unleashed the ancient plague lords and countless monsters. Keep them distracted, Reno.
Not a problem. This plan is totally gonna work. Ain't that right, Finley?
Oh, yes! I have them right where I want them.
There is an artifact here. The name is...
The Scales of Justice. Oh, it must be really fancy.
only to be used in a time of great peril. Yes, I think this qualifies.
Hey, look, Finley! You've lured one of the Plague Lords!
Take this, fiend!
In the face! Yeah! Hey, guys! Get that treasure! We've got a Plague Lord to destroy!
Yes, please, hurry!
Not to worry, Finley! We'll just push this thing right here.
No, that's a trap! Watch out!
It's all good. I am phonily timed.
Gracious me!
What we actually need to do is press this. And there. A fish.
No! It's the Scales of Justice!
Oh. Ah, who wants to use it first?
Oh, I do! Me! On second thought, maybe give it to Finley?
All you had to do was hold a rope.
Here we go, blaming the tall, ruggedly handsome guy again.
I'm George Webb, known as BoarControl in-game. So my name, BoarControl, you would always say this player has board control when you're casting something, and if there's a Stone Chest Boar on board, suddenly that player has board control. The memory that stands out to me from Hearthstone has to be my first tournament victory, which was at Seat Story House Cup 10. I had to face off against Orange in the semi-finals, Chansifka in the quarters, Fino in the round of 16, so it's a pretty stacked event, and then facing Casey in the final, winning that tournament, that really stands out as the main memory. I like to play decks that get on board, and you have swing turns, and you have trades, lots of trades on the board, you try and get an edge in that sense. I'm also open to playing lots of other decks like combo decks too, but in general in Hearthstone, spending your mana and playing a guy has been the best play you can do. In Grandmasters, I want to do well. It's a new format, best of 3, so it's going to be more difficult to get an edge, but I'll try my best to find that edge and do as well as I can in the tournament.
Welcome back to Hearthstone Grandmasters for Europe. We're amidst our first match of the day. It's Pavel taking on BoarControl, this one. Pavel out to a quick 1-0 lead, picking up an unfavorable on the Druid. I'm Nathan, that's Admiral Zamora, joined by Simon Sottle Welch.
Boom.
Nailed it.
Boom goes
Tough
the
to
dynamite.
pronounce W's instead of M's.
Apparently. Just flip it upside down, it's fine.
Yeah, that works.
Yeah.
Well, wait, that makes it Melch again. No comment? Priest Spear!
I'm just sick of it at this point, Admiral.
Of me?
No, of having my names mispronounced.
But that's only by me. And
Okay, then yeah, sure.
It's by
you.
pure accident. Like, I'm not, it's not like I'm like showing up as like your boss for work and it's like, yeah, Mr. Melch, if you could go ahead and take care of this, that'd be great.
Here's a transition for you, Admirable. You know what else I'm sick of?
What's that, Sottle?
Priestman. No, I'm kidding. I actually, I probably enjoy Priest more than the average person currently. I have spent the past 2 days leading up to this broadcast pretty much just exclusively jamming Priest on ladder,
Yep.
which
Giant sicko, we all know.
by extension means that I got to quite high legend because I played Priest for 2 days straight, and those two things tend to be quite connected.
How high on Legend Ladder did you get? You play on Europe, right?
I hit 38 and then fell back again quite quickly.
Okay, so TJ yesterday during the broadcast, Dan was giving him praise for his high legend
Yeah, he
positions.
hit top 10 with like Mech Paladin, right?
I believe he was at number 2 at one point.
Okay.
Not with Mech Paladin, but at some point in the last 2 seasons he was at number 2. And TJ went on an elaborate ruse talking about how if you're in Europe, top 10 is high legend, and if you're in Americas, top 2 is high legend. And so
That sounds right.
I think he's underselling that by about tenfold. I'm going to give it top 20, top 100, because I've watched a lot of Europe ladder, since I've been casting European Grandmasters, and top 100 is still quite competitive in Europe.
Yeah.
Leading off with the beaming sidekick here.
I wonder.
What is your opinion on the silence on Northshire Cleric? Is it because he has Light Warden in play for BoarControl, he's not so worried about the healing?
Yes. I think in this situation, just Pavel drawing a card and giving up board control here is not a fear. You'd be playing exactly around like some weirdo Circle of Healing plus silence hand on the other side from Pavel. What's more important is if Inner Fire comes down or if Extra Arms was to come down on turn 3, those are big, big board control tools. So you need to save that silence to take stats off the board, not just deny card draw.
And that's a big turn for BoarControl, having that silence.
Yep.
You've been seeing a lot of players tech in 2 copies, and this is the exact reason why, I believe, is in situations like this, where you get to turn off an Inner Fire, you get to turn around a position, and start making some progress here. So for Boar, I think drawing all these cards, you're willing to give up the board position because A, you still have a Northshire Cleric on board. That's pretty much the prime target. And so now your plan is capitalize onto the 7-1 somehow.
I will say this play from Boar, like I totally agree with it. It just seemed like the line, but that very annoying value trade does just irk me a little bit, the 7-1 into his Cleric, because now that 7-1's just hanging around. It still needs to be dealt with.
Yeah, and how do you deal with it? I don't want to really trade in my own thing.
Nope.
The difference is, though, that you've gotten card draw, and Pavel has not.
Exactly.
So even if these trade evenly,
Yeah, valid. Continue.
there's a better way to say that. I just don't know what it is. It's early in the morning still. If those trade evenly, BoarControl, in his mind, has the advantage because he has the extra cards.
Yep.
Extra cards mean extra options.
Extra cards sometimes mean extra arms.
Extra arms
Come on, why didn't that work?
means you're Goro.
Yeah, also. Are we just continuing this VT train? Just 9-4 into the 3-2?
And I love me some good old-fashioned VTs. Value trades.
This is a weird game. Like, if you play enough Priest, you play enough Priest mirrors that you think you've seen every iteration of the opening and know how to deal with it, and then every new game you play is just completely different from the last one.
This was the Quad Light Warden, which was founded by BoarControl and Pavel circa 2019.
Yep.
I wonder.
Of course, my head moved towards chess openings. I'm like, what is that like?
Do you see that tweet the other day that went viral where it was like, you know, chess seems sweet, but why do I have to spend like 20 years learning about weird things that people have given random names for? Like, honestly, just fight me in the street, Gary Kasparov. It was a good tweet. I enjoyed it.
Pay respect to your elders, okay? That's why. I love names. It's one of my favorite things about chess.
Well, if you love names so much, get mine right.
I did. Melch. It's by accident. It's not my fault. I guess it is technically my fault, but it's kind of not. Like, something at my core is just causing me to missay the name. I know what it is. You know I know what it is. I catch myself and I apologize for it. You gonna hold that against me?
Yep. All day, every day.
Rightfully so, but don't hate on the names for that.
Okay. First Armet opportunity over to Pavel, but however, it is dead on board currently to value bump heal trade.
Yeah, that was my concern as well, was that the Armet is strong here. You know, I'm trying to think of what cards would change your opinion on playing the Armet. I'm thinking Psychopomp would be one of them.
Opposing Armet would be one of them because that means BoarControl just... Well, actually, no. If opposing Armet is in the hand, you actually do want to play the Armet here because it means Boar can't play his own Armet and deal with the board.
Unless he feels like he just wants to play his own Armet.
Yeah, which is also valid. So you look at the situation, it's like, well, is my Armet better in this position than my opponent's Armet?
I kind of like it.
Well, so I think the answer is no, because the Armet on the other side has initiative, which is the big problem, right? So
I like this too.
Yeah, I think killing it here is sensible, because if you just contest Armet, what Pavel's going to do is play a couple of minions, and then your response is to play a couple of minions. But then Pavel has the first turn where he just has this big board of like 1/9s or whatever that he can then inner fire, extra arms, do whatever else with. Like, he's the first person that gets to make big attacks with those minions.
Yeah.
So I think dealing with it makes sense.
And so for me, I just want to draw this whole game back to the early silence from BoarControl. Pavel would have had an opportunity to draw cards.
Importantly, the delayed silence from BoarControl as well.
Yes.
Waiting to see the inner fire and then silencing it off.
Just wanted to know, he had 2 copies. Pavel has 1. I think 2 is right.
I think in a world where you're expecting Priest Mirrors, that card is incredibly clutch and you want 2 of them.
I'm a big fan of the Muzzy list from this week. The 2 silence and not the Topsy-Turvy, but instead the Forbidden Words.
Okay. Could buy that.
I wonder.
Big fan. And I'm certain BoarControl is a big fan of this turn, because he has nigh wandered.
Yeah, that's one way of putting it.
Imagine in this mirror match beating 0 mana draw 3 when you don't have a board. Yeah, Pavel looks the part right now.
Game 3.
Passes.
Literally game 3.
Oh, it was literally on the circle. We didn't have to get to this point.
I know.
But that's a 28 smacking you. Boar can't believe it, but you know what? This is what happened to you so many times so far. It's a facet of the format. Take advantage of it while it's here. Your job is to win games.
Yep. Again, these Priest Mirrors, they are very, very tough. They're super stressful early game matchups where all of your decisions, like the level of importance that each micro decision would take in, say, like a matchup like we saw yesterday with Viper, that Bomb Warrior versus Control Shaman, the little micro edge that each decision is made in that matchup is all compressed into like 3 turns at the start of the game. And every single action you take is of the utmost importance. If you make the wrong one once, you are going to lose the game immediately.
Yeah, it's kind of a tough thing to stress because it happens so fast and it's so snowbally. But your decisions carry just a ton of weight to them.
Yep.
And I think that compressed is really the right way to put it, because if you think about it, everything gets magnified by a tremendous amount due to like how you tech your list. I mean, there's only a few cards you have to toy with. The rest of them are pretty core to the matchup or just to the deck in general. You look at the mulligan stage. Mulligan stage means a ton. How you perceive an opponent's range and how you use your tools to counteract that range. You know, you're going to take hits and misses across the way. You can't play around everything, and that's the idea behind it. So you play around the things that are most impactful to you, and when things go wrong, if you can afford it, perhaps give you recovery potential from that. That's a very difficult thing to do because, you know, we're talking I mean, how many Priest Mirrors have been played now? There's still things that we're finding out about the matchup at times.
Yep. I think it's very easy to look at that game that just happened and say, you know, not a lot happened. Board just kind of won. He had the better hand or whatever. But I think if Board silences before he sees the inner fire, I think he can lose. I think if Board is scared of that circle of healing play that he made because of the huge light warden he makes on the other side. Like I said, like, oh, I don't like this value trade. I would have made the play, but I was, you know, there would have been a nagging doubt in the back of my mind. Like, I don't like that light warden being huge and then value trading. If he hadn't made that play and he loses his cleric, I think he can lose. If he plays Armet to contest Armet, I think he can lose. I think he continued to make the right play in the right spot that just meant that he was never really losing that game.
And honestly, in most Priest Mirrors, that has been what it feels like I've seen, is players making the right calls and taking the right risks. Yeah. You know, when you have the best players in the world, the micro decisions, they're going to figure those out, and they're going to maximize them. It's the rest of the stuff that seems like it's super complicated to me. And so on to game 3, BoarControl is on Holy Wrath Paladin, Pavel back on the Priest. And this is a matchup that we've seen take place in some pretty interesting ways. Boar has got a heck of a hand.
Whoa there, Nelly. Slow down.
All right.
Boar's just a horse now, apparently. I don't know when that happened.
Nay, he's not.
He's champing at the bit to cast these Christologies, I can tell you that much.
Champing?
It is actually champing.
I thought it was chomping.
Well, so here's the thing. Like, usage is the arbiter, right? And so many people now have thought that it's chomping and said chomping, that it is acceptable and in the dictionary and become that thing. But the origin of it is champing at the bit.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I'm going to Google that later.
It's just some sort of equestrian term. It's just something that horses actually do. Champing means something to horses. I don't know exactly what it is. But yeah, you can Google it.
Etymology champing.
Yep.
Pavel, off to a bit of a slow start, but if you're going to have the slow starts, this is really the 1-2 punch to have them with. You know, rather than having like Neferset into injured, you really want the injured Tolvir there because it gives you strength in the draws of Light Warden and a Northshire Cleric when you have that Ritualist next to it. Puts a lot of pressure on Boar to get things right as well because he's not free to just chip away at the board anymore.
Right.
He knows that if he's going to have to take these out, it needs to be sooner rather than later, and that requires some pretty drastic action. So is it worth it?
Is it worth it?
Personally, in this matchup, I have definitely felt like it's the Paladin needs to take on the role of like a mid-range battle for value style play. And that's tough to do because your tools are very limited, so it's about timing rather than speed.
Yeah, I think people do underestimate just the amount of just vanilla, decent mid-range minions that this deck can just play out. Like, you do need certain synergies to activate in certain spots. Like, if your Neferset Ritualist it just ends up being a River Croc, that's a problem for you. But if you ever really get to heal anything with a Neferset Ritualist, like, you can just kind of play this weird mid-rangey style where you just play big minions every turn. That's kind of what Paladin suffers against a lot of the time.
Boar decided to go with tension in this spot, and Pavel is going to chip into that a bit. His thought here is equality and perhaps Shrink Ray. I think Boar's thought was exactly, if my opponent attacks my minion, I gain some extra HP, but if not, perhaps I get a buffed up Consecration, and that's been counteracted. So further delays for Boar.
Let me think.
So when's your next setup turn?
That's a great question.
Ooh, that's tough. You know, I'm eyeing Consecration because it keeps the pressure on the Pavel's minions pretty high.
Right.
I wonder.
Like, Boar would be relatively okay with seeing like a buff inner fire play of like a reasonable size for him in this position because he has Pyro Subdue locked up. Leaving a 7 health minion on board and taking that much damage if it comes down is kind of terrifying.
I mean, that's threatening between 14 and 18 at that point.
Is someone injured?
Ooh. All right, it's developed plan time. Boar knows that Northshire is critical and that he's got to make something happen.
Drops the second buff on that Northshire Cleric so he doesn't have to worry about this Blood Mage still, even in the threat of second Consecration.
All right, now I believe now this is officially the most critical turn of the game for Boar, where He has to make a choice on if he's going to battle for this board position or if he's going to draw cards and try to find a big swing turn with sweepers.
Let me think.
It's so awkward. I'm looking at Consecration with spell damage, Pyro, and Coin combinations. Nothing quite works because of the fact that the Pyro, if you Pyro and then Coin, you kill your Blood Mage, so you don't get to use the Consecration with the spell damage. If you do it the other way around, then you're not getting the Pyro proc because you end up Consecrating and then Coining Pyro. Like, if you could do that play in a way that would make you happy, it would actually be a really effective board clear here, but it just doesn't quite work.
That's telling me it might be time to take a risk then.
I must move quickly.
And I'm seeing a lot of different lines that involve that. So you Prismatic Lens to filter out ones. Crystal Smith Kangor. Just a little bit of info. Shivala joins the party.
Is he subduing?
I don't think so. He is if he's playing the Wild Pyro, though.
Yeah. Just deny the Cleric at all costs. I kind of like it. No equality, no Shrink Ray in hand, though.
Yeah.
Which means
the only way you would play the Subdue is if you're playing the Wild Pyro. And this was kind of one of my fears with the Wild Pyro is that I think this is a critical tool. However, with Coin still in hand, I think BoarControl's eyeing, taking another couple card draws here, using a timeout to buy some time, and then perhaps finding Shrink Ray or the Equality Consecration. Right. So I think Coin in hand is what's enabling that.
Yeah. I think this is very reasonable. You say Pyro is a critical tool, and it is, but you know what else is a critical tool, Admirable? Northshire Cleric.
I was going to say Hammer. They're pretty important.
A Hammer of Wrath?
Just like hammers in general.
Just like a ball peen hammer.
Yeah, like outside of the scope of Hearthstone.
Okay.
Yeah.
I feel like if someone threw an actual hammer at me, it would do a lot more than 3 damage.
Yeah, but imagine made one made of like ethereal holy power.
That sounds worse, if anything.
I mean, you got to have a lot of chi to channel that much into just holy energy being chucked at you.
I'm a super cursed human being. Holy power is very effective against me.
I guess to be fair, like, do you feel like you could take on a Timberwolf by yourself? Because that's only a 1/1. So we're probably both dying to the Hammer of Wrath.
Fair point.
Pavel, very slow turn here. So I wonder what Pavel's fearing by not playing the Ahmed. Is he thinking exactly Shrink Ray?
I would expect so, yeah. I think he's just got the opposite read in the situation, which is a very reasonable read in itself, that, you know, Boar wouldn't throw away a Subdue like that if he didn't have a different way in hand to answer boards.
I feel like if I'm in Pavel's spot, if BoarControl had Shrink Ray, he would have used it last turn.
Maybe, yeah.
Perhaps he's trying to disguise how much damage he has by not playing the Ahmet, trying to prompt Boar to take a risk.
So I guess, actually, so if you play the Ahmet here, even if, say, Boar just goes, okay, I can't deal with this, I'm going to have a timeout turn, you then want to follow up with Bwomsamdi on the following turn, which then prompts Boar to like use his massive AoE because it's killing Ahmet and Bwomsamdi and this huge board, and then you have a handful of 1-drops that don't do anything. So looking at it this way, I think this makes sense, just to go pass into Bwomsamdi. That triggers a clear because Bwomsamdi's on board and your opponent has played the Subdue. And then you have High Priest Ahmet for refill afterwards. I think this is just the right line, like regardless of reads, the more that I look at it.
18 to 16. I feel like the hidden damage is important too, because a buff here would end the game. No buff. And when you're staring down the Kangor, the fact that you took a bit of a slow turn, I mean, that's got to feel regretful now.
Yeah.
Like, Pavel would have ended this game without Ahmet in play. Or forced Boar to take a different turn. As it stands, I feel like Boar's position became quite comfortable.
I agree with that too. In the scenario we're looking at, Pavel would have been better off pressuring.
Classic horrible turn 7 for Paladin. Boar, I've noticed, has been making it a point to try and save coin or to hold Prismatic Lens for these turns to couple a timeout. This has been the variation I've been happiest with when I'm playing Holy Wrath Paladin. It just gives you something to do on turn 4, or on turn 7 rather.
Sure.
I wonder.
He just has to time out, right? What else is getting done here?
Well, you didn't die last turn. You're gaining 6 more HP this turn if you want.
Uh-huh.
I think the thought is going to be between novice coin timeout and 3-cost timeout.
Okay, no, all right, that is actually a good decision.
It's like, how does that 2-cost timeout affect things?
Yeah.
And I think that being a big kicker is what Boar should typically favor in this spot.
Yep, that's a good point.
Holds the true silver swing. Interested in that.
Yikes.
Yeah, the more I think about this, the more I like the 2-cost timeout from Boar.
Why?
I'm thinking about draws that specifically matter, like Prismatic Lens is a big one.
Sorry, hang on, clarify. You like that he still has it, or you liked it last turn?
No, I like that he still has
Right,
it
okay.
because his draws that are going to yield him card draw, that 2-cost timeout, I think, makes a big impact.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
In those situations.
Yeah, that's where I'm at as well.
Boar needs some help, though, and that's often what this deck does need.
Was going to burn a card that turn? Yeah. Just decides to toss out a Circle of Healing to save himself from 1 card draw burn? Interesting.
Yeah, I feel
I'm
like
not sure I agree.
Yeah, I feel like I'd be using a Beaming Sidekick or Light Warden, but you do want minions in play? Like, I think Pavel's clearly expecting this board to get wiped.
I mean, I would go a step further and say that I like almost all of these cards better than a random card in my deck right now.
Divine Favor?
Spirit?
Spirit, sorry.
Sure. Yeah, that's the one.
I think that's an important one.
Yeah.
You see that 2-cost timeout, Boar's preserved coin even further.
I hope you like my invention.
Draw a card.
Yikes.
And I guess the question there would be whether or not you Holy Wrath as part of it.
Also, yikes.
Boar definitely should be nervous, but I think he's got the cards that can get him into this situation. There's 8 cards left. We're looking at an Equality and a Shrink Ray being 2 of those draws. If you're looking at the Zephyrus, what's missing to activate that?
Yeah, that's what I was just trying to check as well. He's drawn a Consecration,
Flash
he's
of
drawn
Light.
Pyromancer, Flash of Light.
So
yep.
50% of the time next turn, he has access
To a big AoE.
to a big AoE.
Yep.
Now the question though is on 3-cost Zephyrus, what does that AoE offer? Because you have 10 mana access, so you're gonna have 7 mana left
Oh,
afterwards.
he doesn't know you still have coin either. Oh, that's so unfortunate.
And he draws none of them. Wow. Okay. Well, when you don't draw any of them, that definitely becomes a lot tougher.
So, Holy Wrath, you get your Zephyrus active. Well, Holy Wrath, you can draw Shrink Ray, first and foremost, and then coin it out. That's excellent.
Looking at positions where you need to use Shrivala to battle for board.
Yep.
So if that's the case, Holy Wrath onto Light Ward.
Okay. And then if you Holy Wrath and you draw a Flash of Light, which activates your Zephyrus, you're down to 4, you coin back up to 5, you play Zephyrus, and you have 2 left? Yeah, that's not very fun.
Perhaps something else. You do have a true silver champion on board. Can you clear this?
What's happening? A couple of 7 health boys in play.
Something's happening.
It's clear, seems ambitious. Okay, actually, now that I see it in action, this is very good.
This is because he saw the circle healing from Pavel's side. He's confident that this stays as a 4-1. There's 1 circle of healing. There's no ritualists
No
left.
sets, yep. All right, I take it all back. The clear did get the job done. Was not looking at this at all.
There is you know, always inherent risks to these situations. So now for Pavel, Topsy, Sidekick, and Divine Spirit would be 6 to 12. So Pavel would have needed exactly Topsy, double Divine Spirit, and then Inner Fire for this spot to work, or he would have needed Circle of Healing and pretty much the same.
Whoa, hang on. If you Topsy and then silence a Blade Master, it goes back to a 4/7.
What is a loon's
Topsy,
will?
silence, 4/7, 9, 18.
Okay.
Still off.
Whew.
Ooh, that's a good spot. But if you can't deliver lethal, you got to take this Shivala out.
Yep. This is, because of those silence considerations, by the way, we were talking about, like, there's inherent risk to the situation. I think this is just less risky than even, like, Holy Wrath draw Shrink Ray. That play in itself is still inherently risky because he can just silence one of his minions on board back to the full health total and then get the Divine Spirit Inner Fire to come down.
Error.
What happened?
Just didn't get it off in time.
So he missed a heal? Yeah.
He missed something. He's got 6 mana left.
Yep. Hard turn. Very hard turn.
I get it, but your time is a resource, and you have to manage it properly.
Agree.
It's mismanaged, and
I can, like, but normally I am person number 1 for crucifying people for roping because I have got on that high horse multiple times. In that situation, say I'd spotted that Blade Master line like 45 seconds into that turn, right? It's going to take me 10, 15 seconds to work out whether or not I have lethal, having just realized that. And I'm not stopping that train of thought for anything because I might have lethal in that position. I'm going to, like, execute that through to the end. So I think with a turn there, where I just had so many things that you had to do raw maths on, plus spotting interactions, plus spotting just various outs and situations. And then when the rope appeared, you're like, well, damn, nothing works. I just have to refocus on killing this Shivala. Like, it happens. I'm willing to let that one go. I'm not going to not criticize it. It was bad.
I'm not concerned with the line. I'm concerned with the mana. You floated 6 of it.
Yeah, it was very poor.
You build your entire deck and spend the whole early game trying to get an extra 1 or 2 mana in play sometimes.
I know.
And Boar's turn was like, he had stuff to do, but it wasn't fantastic.
Yeah.
And that opening, I think, it probably just...
I wonder...
I mean, his hand's still pretty bad for Boar. He's got to draw something good. I think in BoarControl spot, you have to equality. He's thinking about the draw first and then into equality. I think that holds some same merit.
Right. I think he only needs to draw 1 card off this Acolyte of Pain, personally.
His remaining deck, 2 Flash Heals.
Exactly.
Shivala.
Yeah. Shrink Ray.
Shrink Ray, thank you.
Move quickly.
And now Zephyr's active.
Comment goes down.
Reporting your duty.
Seems to be an awfully good Psychopomp card.
The end begins.
Yeah, that one's pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, in this spot, though,
Max right now is 5 up to 10 up to 20.
if he had all the mana for it, yeah.
Yeah. He knows there's still a Shrink Ray left anyway, so he needs to do it on something that's attacking.
You know, there's a Zephyr still there.
Yeah. So even if he held everything on the following turn and he did have something that could still attack, he goes 5 to 7 to 14 to 28, which wouldn't have been enough anyway, so he does need to push through some damage right now, so this makes sense.
I believe if Boar navigates the rest of this correctly, it's checkmate.
It's looking that way. He does just need a couple of points of damage into the equation, though.
No Power Word shields drawn yet for Pavel. I guess that could be a kicker.
There's that heal from Pavel. Can Pavel now just be the fatigue deck?
Oh, I didn't think about that part.
I'm almost out of cards.
So last card is Shivala.
I mean, the answer is still a fairly resounding no, because Boar can still play his Zephyrus on the turn that he does his second Shivala combo.
Hang on, you can just Holy Wrath right now.
Yep.
Okay. When he went to Flash of Light, I was like, wait a second.
You just Holy Wrath, you Zephyrus, and then you take your Pyroblast for the next turn, right? How does that lose?
Well, buffs from
Well,
Pavel's side.
But you're playing a Shivala.
I wonder.
Yes.
Move quickly. I'm out of cards. It's time to test your mettle. Stash that away.
So he's going to do 25. The most Pavel can heal for is 2. So at which point you can just Zephyrus on the next turn anyway. You've gained an extra 4. You played an extra Shivala. Yeah, okay, sure.
You just have so much HP now, too.
Sure, yeah.
You have 49.
The extra Shivala and doing it this way is actually a lot more secure. Because the thing I was worried about is like maybe an injured Tolvir or something like stops Gorehowl lethal or whatever you end up going for, but you have 2 Shivalas on board, and the 2 Shivalas on board are giving you more health security against random outs coming back the other way from Pavel.
Yeah.
It just makes sense. Boar's right. Tough turn again, though.
It's the shrink ray, really. The shrink ray is what keeps us capitalized on. Because I think, you know, Pavel's one way to get back here is to make this the biggest taunt you could possibly make it.
While still healing his face so he doesn't die to direct burn from Zephyrus.
Yeah.
That seems kind of hard, too.
Yeah. I mean, it's double Divine Spirit and then heal yourself. And as it stands, that still doesn't get through Zephyrus.
Silence. GG. Kabosh Shadow Pre. Oh, style point, Zephyrus. I'm liking it. Good job. Excellently done. What is wrong with you, BoarControl, honestly?
What did I miss?
Just the weird hand gestures from Boar. I don't know. They just amuse me no end.
That's the idea, right?
I know.
He's talked about it. He likes being animated, too.
He's an entertainer.
I love how you do this with it. I'm a caster.
I do the words good.
Is this what UK people do? They're just mean to each other.
Yeah. Again, this is genuinely why I don't understand that Pheno story about where he got his name from. It's just so foreign to me as to how friends talk to each other.
So to you, it's not that somebody said that. It's that someone had a friend that said something nice.
Yes,
Oh,
correct.
okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
That makes much more sense to me.
Yeah.
BoarControl's ready for an interview. Boar, can you hear us?
Yeah, can you hear me, guys?
I can hear you loud and clear. Congratulations on your win in this series. Last game looked pretty interesting to me. I think you were faced with a lot of tough lines. And then some other interesting things cropped up in this series. So talk to me about some of the tougher points for you and things that you feel stood out in the match.
Yeah, so that last game, the Paladin and Priest matchup's always awkward because basically anytime the Priest has a minion on board, they're threatening lethal. So because obviously I don't know if they have Divine Spirit combo in hand, it's just find the balance of when you use your timeouts, can you afford to? Like that game, I just didn't have the clears. If I used the timeout and he had Blom Sandy, I was just not going to get there. So read on the hand was like, if he had Power Shield in hand, he would have played it. He already played a Sidekick, so the odds of having a 2 health buff plus Divine Spirit plus Inner Fire to do 16 was quite low. And then I needed the store, and as you see, it was like quite close in the end there because I didn't have the clear at all. It just about got there in the end. And then, yeah, other games, not really much happened, I don't think.
So I want to ask you very specifically just against that, about that end game sequence, like essentially the last thing you did, because you appeared to be going back and forth between like, do I Holy Wrath right now? Do I do the Flash of Light? I spent that entire turn like stream of consciousnessing, so I'm willing to hear what you were thinking about at the time.
Originally, I was just going to go Flash of Light, play it, and then I was like, hold up, I'm missing lethal here, and I was like, what 2 mana spell deals 5? And I was like, no, there's nothing.
Right.
And then I was thinking, like, does the order matter? And then I was like, what am I thinking? Of course the order doesn't matter. I was like, can he kill me? No, I'm on 50. I was just like triple checking, because why not, right?
Yeah, I agree. It's always like a why not kind of circumstance. I did want to ask you about your lineup this week, because it feels like the non-Archivist Elysiana lists have become quite popular in this week particularly. What's prompting that decision from Control Warrior to be more focused as just an anti-aggro deck? Because I believe you were one of the first people that started doing that.
Yeah, well, the primary plan is just to remove all the dead cards versus Priest and Paladin. So that's basically the premise of the deck, is to try and beat those 2 matchups. And then it normally just gets banned in that series as well. And then if I'm facing Warrior, I'm playing on banning Warrior, so Elysiana isn't useful for me in that matchup. Otherwise, things aren't going to fatigue. Like if I'm facing Druid, they're going to draw their deck way faster than me. If I'm facing Shaman, I'm just going to lose anyway. I'm not playing a Mega Assemblies. I'm just going to lose on board, right? I don't think the Elysiana adds anything in this particular build. In a different build with, say, a Mega Assemblies and stuff, Elysiana makes a lot more sense. But in my specific build, I don't see it being worth it.
So I just want to ask before we let you go, can you confirm to Admirable that in the UK, people who are friends with each other don't say nice things to each other? He doesn't understand this.
Yeah, I mean, it depends. Sometimes you might say a nice thing to the guy's particularly down. You don't want to just always be horrible to people, right? I mean, so maybe you might go a bit far here on the harsh side, but normally like backhanded compliments maybe, or like not saying too many nice things. But yeah, it is weird.
So the key is not too many. It's a fine, delicate balance, very much like the Priest Mirror match. You don't want to go overboard, but you don't want to do too little.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. Well, Boar,
and then you see, yeah.
No, continue.
I was just going to say, and then you see some people tech their priest decks different with like 2 silences, and some people don't have any silences at all, right? So yeah,
well, that's
people are all different, right?
Yeah, I mean, no silence. It sounds that I can't even imagine that. That's a what are you doing kind of question. How did Battle Rift go for you, by the way? I forgot to mention that.
Yeah, Battle Rift was excellent. Enjoyed casting it. There was it was nice to meet up with all of the players. It hadn't been any events to play in with these guys who I was meeting up with all of last year. So it was nice to see them, see what they've been up to, and then just another Hearthstone tournament. Anytime there's Hearthstone on, I'm enjoying watching it or playing it or casting it. I'm just happy to be involved.
All right. Well, I'm happy to hear because I think you're one of the people I would love to see involved in that scene more as well. You know, what little is out there, I want to support it, and I'm glad to see that you're working on it too. Boar, congratulations on your win. I'm looking forward to your next match.
Thank you.
I forgot to mention that. The battle
no, you
thing.
didn't?
Well, I meant at the start of the match.
Yeah, I know.
That's the story time.
I ended up, like I said, I was going to watch Boar casting and just, crucify everything he did because he's a big fan of sending me feedback, which I absolutely appreciate after the cast about things that he was thinking, things that I missed, interactions that I wasn't thinking about, that kind of thing. I was like, all right, I'm going to tear you apart from like a technical side of casting. This is revenge time. And then I realized that it was happening like while I was asleep most of the time because I was in the wrong time zone. It was a European tournament. I just didn't get to watch any of it. What's that about?
Well, that's your fault, isn't it?
I guess so, yeah.
Sleep.
I guess I should have just flipped my sleep schedule.
Sleep is for the weak.
Yeah, you're not wrong.
Yeah. Well, sometimes I am. Strong people sleep. They sleep a lot, actually. Maybe that's why I'm not so strong.